I'm going to show you exactly how you have to play to outplay an 1800 rated player step by step. What's up, chess player? Welcome to the Journey to Grandmaster, the place where you can improve every aspect of your chess game. We are going to play the Sicilian defense today. I'm going to play as black, and let me try to crush my opponent because, well, that is the best opponent to outplay your opponent very fast, very dynamic, because that is the sharpest position you might get from the Sicilian defense. Let's see how it's going to be today. So I'm playing the e6 variation, knight takes d6, and now a6. It's called the Khan variation, very tricky one. Let's see which line he's going here. So, of course, you always need to follow the main opening principles, which are development, focusing on the center, and making sure your king is castled and secured. And then, of course, going on with the attack, going on with your threats. Yeah, our opponent is playing c4, which is a very good move, but it doesn't really allow us to be as active as I would like to be, of course. But we are going to try. We are going to play knight to f6 here. We are going to attack this pawn on e4. He plays knight to c3. And then, yeah, let me try to play queen c7. That is one of the possible ways here to go. I just want to normally develop my pieces here with a move d6, bishop e7, b6, this bishop goes to b7, this knight goes to d7. That is well known as a hedgehog system. So let's see if I can build it. Yeah, a3 is a very good move here because I was preparing the move bishop before. That shows that our opponent has a very good theoretical knowledge here, and which is quite surprising for me in terms of 1800 rated player. So let me just play bishop e7 for now. Let's see what he's gonna do afterwards. I have to be careful with the move e5. I should never allow it because that's gonna be very dangerous. But for now, my queen seems to guard this square. And later on, I'm gonna play d6 and even knight d7 to make sure it's not possible. But we are pretty much guaranteed to have a very intense game where both players are gonna attack each other, and hopefully, well, I'm going to be a little bit more successful than my opponent. Now, while my opponent is thinking about his move, if you want to be my next opponent in such a game, I'm going to comment it all the way and also help you, give you some advices after the game. If you want to be my next opponent, like this video, write in the comments that you would like to be that player playing against me, and write the reason why you would like yourself to be my next opponent, and I'm going to randomly choose one comment out of all of you guys participating in 1 week, and you're gonna be my opponent just like this guy here. That would be very instructive for you, so good luck, and I hope you're gonna enjoy this video as well as the one you're gonna play yourself. My opponent wants to chat with me for some reason. Let me accept the chat. I don't know what he's up to, but let him have this opportunity. And yeah, now he's starting to think. I'm not sure if he has some specific ideas in mind, like maybe sharp variation, but as long as e5 is not a problem, he should just normally develop his pieces. All kinds of moves are possible here: bishop e3, bishop d3, f3. I mean, it just depends on what kind of plan you want to achieve, whether you want to get a sharp position, you want to get, I don't know, f4, g4, g5 immediately, or yeah, he is actually going for it. That's very fascinating. Okay, so g5 is kind of coming. I said that e5 should be stopped because that would be devastating for me. I don't want to allow that, but he's going for g5, which can also be very strong. How do I stop that? I think about the move h5 because that is a typical idea. He goes g5, I have knight to g4, and then I'm attacking this pawn, which I'm not sure I'm allowed to take because that might be dangerous, but at least he has to think about it. And then if he plays h3, I have the move knight to e5. The knight in the center is very strong, and if he plays f4, first of all, that's very dangerous for his king, probably doesn't work, for example, bishop h4, but also I'm attacking this pawn on c4. I pretty much like it. Now I have to check what happens if he takes here. I take it with the knight. The knight has a perspective to go to f4 later on. This bishop can go to h4. My queen is still open. I guess that is the advantage of the fact that I didn't play d6 earlier and started with developing my pieces. In general, if you have a choice between developing a new piece, making a move with a pawn, or making a second move with already a developed piece, you always should choose developing a new piece, because the more pieces, the more forces you bring into the game, the more opportunities you're going to have afterwards. So I'm going to try this move h5. That feels very interesting to me. I don't want to allow him just to execute his plan without really fighting against him, so let me go for it. I'm just noticing now that my idea with bishop h4 never works if he plays g5, because the pawn is blocking the diagonal, so that doesn't work. It only works if he takes here. Then I might have this idea. But if he plays g5, knight g4, h3, knight e5, and f4, obviously I don't have this move. But I still can take on c4. I don't see how he can punish me for that. Once again, it's good for me that my pawn is still on d6, so he doesn't have any checks like queen a4 check, because then b5 is not helping me. He has knight x b5. Hopefully you can more or less follow my variations. I understand sometimes it can be tricky, but I'm just doing my best to make it instructive for you guys, to help you improve your chess with the help of my decision-making process throughout the games. Of course, it's not perfect, but hopefully I can bring one or two new concepts that you can use in your own games and improve your chess this way. So I like that my opponent is really not making all of the moves immediately like my opponents on this level usually do. Instead, he's really taking his time, because the position is incredibly complex. And when on earth do you take time to think about your move, if not now? Because, well, if you make the wrong decision, it might be too late afterwards. So many players are making this mistake that they're playing so fast from the very beginning, and then they get to a completely losing position, and then they start to think, but of course it's just too late at that point. So the pawn is really hanging, so he can just ignore it. h3 doesn't help, f3 doesn't help. So he has either an opportunity to take or to play g5. I don't see any other reasonable choice except for that. If I win the game, I get +2 rating points. If I lose, I get -55. How that is fair? I mean, that is incredible. But of course, I'm not playing it to get any rating points. I'm playing it for you guys. So hopefully you support me with your like button. And remember, that is a chance for you to be my next opponent here. Okay, g5, I'm going for it. Knight g4. Otherwise, why on earth did I play h5? Doesn't make any sense if I don't play it. Now this knight, of course it can be tricky. I might lose it here, I don't know. By the way, if he plays f4, how do I say? I just thought about it and he immediately made this move. And I'm thinking now, oh my god, how do I save this knight? But I'm noticing I have this move e5. That would be normally a good move, because if he takes, I'm having a beautiful position for my knight. I'm opening up the position while his king is very opened, basically naked in the center of the board. But there is one little problem with all of that. Namely, he can play knight d5 with the tempo, and that is incredibly, incredibly annoying, because my bishop, my queen are hanging, I have to go back. Maybe I still should go for it, because I just don't see any other way to save this knight here. But that is very annoying that the knight can go here. Yeah, because suddenly my knight has no option. Somehow I thought that I'm attacking the pawn and the pawn has moved. That is a mistake. Always try to find all of the possibilities for your opponent, not just the obvious ones, especially if you have some time like I do in this case. Okay, I'm also curious whether it's going to be dangerous if at some point I go knight h6, he takes, and bishop h4 check, whether it's dangerous enough for his king to compensate the loss of the piece. Because if he goes to d2, I take this guy. If he goes to e2, I take this guy. But it's just one pawn in both of those variations. It's not too much. For example, knight h6, pawn takes, bishop h4 check, king goes to d2, I take it here, but he just plays king c2. And what is my follow-up? His king is pretty much secured, I'm a piece down, and I don't have anything for that. My queen is also hanging. No, that is not the way to go. But a5 probably should be played. So what kind of alternatives do I have? I can play knight c6. He's gonna attack my knight. I can take it here. He's gonna take it. Well, that is actually huge, because I have bishop c5 in the end of the day. The queen is hanging, and when the queen is going somewhere, I'm gonna play knight f2. Unfortunately, there is queen takes g7 here, and my rook is in trouble. My knight is still hanging, so that variation doesn't work. Maybe instead of that, I can play knight c6, h3, and now bishop to c5, attacking this guy. And if he takes, I have knight to f2 fork, that can actually work because his queen is under attack, and with the knight on c6, he can't do anything against me. So knight c6. What happens if he just takes? Now I have to take it back somehow, let's say with this pawn, and he plays h3. Yeah, and then I don't have anything. So maybe I start with bishop c5 instead. Now after h3, I'm coming back to this line. And what else can he do? I don't really see a very dangerous option. So if I play bishop c5, he plays h3, I play knight c6, he takes here, I take it there, and hopefully I'm gonna get some activity. But he does take on h5, and that is a very, very bad extra pawn for him. I don't get anything immediately there as a compensation. I don't think that should be good enough for me. And I don't really see, because my knight on d4, yes, it stands great in the center of the board, but all of the squares are covered. Yeah, I don't see it. So I'm coming back to this e5 idea, because that is a direct threat. If the knight is going anywhere, I'm going to be able to play bishop c5, and then once again this idea would be on by agenda. Maybe I can turn it around, bishop c5, h3, then e5, but then I guess I'm allowing the knight e5 move, and I'm losing my knight anyway. No, I'm going to go for e5 immediately. You can still play knight d5, queen d8, or whatever square I choose. Yeah, probably queen d8 is the only reasonable choice. Wait, I also have queen c5 actually, because if the knight is going anywhere, I have queen f2 checkmate, immediately winning the game. I do get this square away from the bishop, that is a problem. If he takes on g4, for example, I'm taken on d4 somehow, then yeah, also knight c7 is a huge problem. So I have to take with the pawn, but then he has b4. That is not a variation I want to go for. So that means after knight d5, I have to go queen d8, and then hope that after h3, I'm taking it here, he takes it there. Yeah, I also have a problem that my pawn is pinned. I cannot take it because my rook is going to be lost. I have to play h4, but that might work. I'm not losing anything, and yeah, I do lose a d4 pawn. Yeah, I still don't like it. I still don't like it. So apparently my h5 idea, I kind of bluffed with it because it seems like it's not good enough, unfortunately. Maybe I can sacrifice my knight somehow differently. So when he plays knight d5, I play queen d8, h3, his knight is under attack. So maybe I can jump to f2, work in those pieces. He basically has to take, and then I take here. Because he cannot take on g4 anymore, this is not a problem. He can still take on d4, unfortunately, and I don't have bishop c5 winning the queen, because my queen is on d8 instead of c7. Can I use the same idea with queen c5? Knight d5, queen c5, h3, knight to f2, forking, king has to take, and then I take with a pawn, because I still cannot take with the queen because of knight c7 at the end of the day. I take with the pawn, he plays b4, I just go away to a7 to still protect. No, but still this problem with knight c7 fork, that is a huge problem. So I have to go back to c6, but then I take this square away from my knights, and he takes here. Yeah, queen c5 doesn't seem to work. So my problem is I don't have a good square after knight d5 for the queen to go. d8 is too passive, and c5 is taking a square away from my bishop. a5 is also not a square because just b4, and I don't have bishop takes b4 because this knight can take it. And then once again, my knight is hanging. Wait, my knight is still not hanging. Knight d5, queen a5, b4, bishop takes b4, knight takes b4. I can actually take it here. But then h3 still wins a piece. And also after queen a5, bishop d2 is possible, and then my queen is hanging. Well, that actually might help, because now I play queen c5, and I'm attacking this guy, and threatening their checkmate. So he can play h3, I take it here, he has to take, but then he's threatening knight. Wait, I have queen f4 there. Wow, that is a fantastic position. I understand that is probably overwhelming for you, so many variations, but right now I'm calculating queen a5 check. Bishop d2 seems like a move you would like to make. And then I play queen to c5. Now, the knight can't go anywhere because of queen f2 checkmate. So when I'm here attacking this knight, he can't really take it here, because remember, his bishop is here blocking the queen, so I can't really take it. Then I do it no matter what. Bishop e3 is not possible. Bishop c3 is not reasonable because I take it here. So h3 seems to be the move, and then I can even take it immediately, because after takes, I take it on e4, giving a check and attacking his opponent's rook. Basically winning the rook. I mean, he also has knight c7, I understand that, but at least I'm gonna get to his king. That's gonna be incredible. Yeah, queen a5 seems to me like a provocation, this move bishop d2. Now let's think whether he has a better option than bishop d2. He has the move knight to c3 back, but if he's going back and forth, that can never be a problem. I can just take the knight, for example. So we are coming back to the move b4. In this case, I'm taking. Now if he takes here back with the pawn, I have queen takes a1, and I'm attacking the knight. He has knight c7 check, go away. He takes. I'm taking the knight on d4 with my queen, and that seems like a good exchange because I'm winning the rook, then the knight, and this knight is also difficult to escape, and this knight, I have a way to save it now. So I like that. What else? Queen a5, queen d2. That is not an option because I just exchange, and I'm going to take the knight, and then I'm going to have a square for my knight to escape. It seems like queen a5 is indeed working, unless I'm blundering something very important. But I don't see it, so I'm going to go for it. I mean, in the worst case scenario, I can always just after b4 just go back, or after bishop d2 just go back to d8, and then still he's gonna have some problems with this knight. But I hope that my main variation works, because the problem with the move queen to c5 immediately is that I cannot really take it with the queen. That would exchange the queens, and white is happy to exchange the queens because afterwards he's gonna win that rook, and without the queens I don't have any checkmate ideas. So I'm provoking this move bishop d2 to be able to play queen c5 and then take that knight on d4 with the queen, because the queen is so powerful in the center of the board, threatening checkmate, threatening to take on e2 and win the rook there. Let's see what my opponent is up to. Okay, he's actually playing bishop d2. He hasn't thought for such a long time, so I'm assuming he hasn't calculated all of the tricky lines here. Unless I'm blundering something. For example, I understand that if he takes on e7 and I take it back, I just lose my queen there after bishop a4. But no chance on earth after knight x7 I'm gonna take it back with the queen, or even with the king, or even with the queen. Instead, I'm gonna grab this knight and once again threaten all of those horrible things to him. So queen c5. Once again, the knight has absolutely no move to escape because of checkmate. The knight cannot be protected because it's attacked twice, and yeah, that's never possible. So the only way for him is to create a counter threat. Maybe I'm missing something like bishop b4, yeah, that might be the case, because now, once again, the same problem appears that the queens are going off the board. Yeah, that's actually a pity, because queen takes, pawn takes, he can just take on e7. I mean, that's not a bad variation for me, but not good either, because this knight remains on d5, although maybe I'm gonna have knight e3, kind of provoking an exchange, as well as threatening knight c2. Yeah, I guess it's too late to go back to d8. I don't want to do it, although that might be possible for me, because the knight is still under attack. And if the knight goes away, I still have this bishop c5, which is very annoying for him. And his queen is kind of blocked with his own queen. But if I go back, he might have some active opportunities, like knight takes e7. Now if I take it back, he has bishop b4 once again, or knight f5. So I have to take on d4 in every case. And then maybe it's not that bad. He has knight f5 though, attacking here, attacking there. Yeah, I don't like it. Let me go for my initial idea, because that was my plan, and I'm gonna stick to it. If I lose, I lose. I mean, it's not the best strategy in every case. Sometimes you have to admit your mistake, and if there is still a chance to choose a better option, or to just go back if you made a horrible mistake, yes, you're losing time, but at least you are on the right way now. But first of all, I don't feel that it's so bad for me after bishop b4, and secondly, that is the most active move, so I want to really make it. He has some knight c7 forks there, of course. So bishop b4, I take it, he takes it with the queen, I take it, he has knight c7 check, king d8. Now if he takes here, I'm just gonna take the knight, of course. But if he takes the rook, I'm gonna take it on b4, then I'm in exchange down, and I still have a little bit of time until this knight recovers from here. Maybe knight e3. Yeah, hopefully I'm gonna be able. Maybe rook e8, by the way. Rook e8 is an interesting option there. Okay, he's not going bishop b4. No, I'm pretty sure bishop b4 was the best move for him, because now I can just take it. I mean, I am creating two threats at the same time. I don't see how he's able to deal with it. In every case, I want to take. I don't want to do anything else. Yeah, here just takes. Yeah, it's not the end of the world, of course, because he's gonna have this knight c7 idea and he's gonna get that rook back. But I'll win an pawn in the process. I'm not any material down, and I'm gonna be the one attacking his king, so it cannot be bad for me. Also, bishop e2 is not an option because I'm taking with the check, so he has to play queen e2. Then potentially I have this exchange because I am a pawn up, but no, I don't want to do that. Also, maybe I have. Now I'm noticing that he also has queen e5 idea. That would be threatening checkmate, winning a pawn, threatening g7 pawn. Also, I do have knight c6, protecting and attacking. Then after takes, I have h take g, incredible move. And then the rook is suddenly protected by my queen. Knight c7 is, of course, at his agenda, but then this this knight on a8 would be horribly passive, basically not existent, for a few moves at least. And I have those moves to create some threats for him. So I really, excuse me if queen takes e2 is the right move, I just cannot do it. It's such an interesting position. I want to play it with the queens on the board. Unless I'm winning, I'm losing immediately here. Maybe knight takes e7, queen takes queen e5 looks very dangerous, especially given into account the fact that he has this queen. Yeah, that might be very important. So what I'm talking about is queen takes h1. Now after queen takes e5, basically it's not that dangerous for me anymore because I have knight c6. But if he takes immediately, what do I do in this case? If I take it back, he has queen takes e5. And now if I go this side, he has bishop a5. Basically, that's a checkmate on the spot. If I go this side, he also has a check. I go to g8, he has another check. But I do serve... No, I don't. Or I do. Yeah, king h7, I thought first of all bishop d3, but that is not possible. The bishop is pinned. And if the queen goes back to e4, that is also not possible because my queen is there. And if he plays g6, I can just take it. Okay, so once again, queen takes, knight takes, king takes, queen takes e5, king f8. Now bishop b4, king g8. If he does something else, like queen d6, once again king g8. That doesn't seem that dangerous. Okay, my intuition tells me I have to take the rook, and there should be a way for me to escape all of the troubles. Maybe I'm wrong. We are gonna find it out very soon. Also, what I don't really like about this position is that he can just castle alone, and then his king is secured, and all of his pieces are suddenly very active, whereas I don't have any development at all. That might be very problematic for me. What I like, though, after long castles, I'm gonna have the move knight to c6, and that is gonna help me stabilize the situation more or less. So that is the move I'm relying on. He, of course, always has this knight to c7 move, but that is just taking the rook back. Remember, it's not winning any material, because right now I'm a whole rook up. And even a pawn up, right? Yeah, exactly. That is the current material situation, but he has so many active opportunities here. I would bet he would rather have here like 20 minutes on his clock to calculate queen takes e5, knight takes e7, long castles, knight c7, so many interesting moves. He goes for queen e5 immediately. I thought that move is not that dangerous because now I have knight c6, which helps me because the more pieces I bring into the game, the simpler it gets for me to deal with all of his threats. For example, if queen takes g7, I really can just take it here because I want to bring my queen back. I want to connect my queen into the defense. Another funny line is queen takes g7. I have queen to e4 check. He does something with a king or with a bishop, and then I play queen h7, and then I protect the rook and propose a queen's exchange. Yeah, but he still has knights to c7 in the end of the day. Although, without the queens on the board, I'm gonna play king d8, knight takes, and bishop c5, and then good luck trying to save that knight from a8. It's not that difficult. Okay, he goes for it, so I do have this choice now. Because I do win a tempo. if I just take, he has 1 castles, and then he's threatening to bring a new piece. That might be dangerous. Although I once again have this queen h7 move there. I just have to be careful with something like knight f6. I have to take it because it's fork. And then he's just ready to play rook e1 check. My opponent just wrote in the chat, is this position even scary for you? He's asking me, okay. I mean, yes, if I would have a tournament game in this position, I would be very scared at this point, but it's just a training game, so I'm pretty fine. But I, of course, want to win it. I want to survive here because, yes, extra material is good, but I actually want to bring the full point home. I now noticed that queen e4, check, he goes bishop e2, let's say. I not only have queen h7, but I also have queen d4, also offering the queen's exchange, but my queen is much more active there. And I actually like it, because if he takes, I have knight takes, and then if he takes my rook, I'm gonna take his rook. Otherwise, he has to play something like king d1, but then he's not gonna be able to castle anytime soon. That is a good line for me. So king f2, king f2 is actually better because he has rook e1. But I do have queen to d4, exchanging the queens with a check. So queen e4, bishop e2, queen goes to d4, and then if he plays knight f6, I wanted to take it with the bishop, because I'm attacking the queen and protecting the rook. But he can't take with the pawn there, and then my rook is hanging. I can play rook f8 and hopefully survive there. Also, he plays long castles, then my king is absolutely naked. That is really scary, I have to say. Although, maybe I have time to play d6, bishop e6, and then I'm gonna castle. Yeah, I like it. Let me play queen e4, because that seems once again as the most active move for me, and if I am playing actively, that should help me survive. If I'm playing passively, my opponent will just create more and more threats, and sooner or later is gonna destroy me. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this game. I, of course, didn't expect it to be that amazing, given into account the fact that my opponent is 1850, but he's playing much, much stronger than that. Okay, so now, yeah, queen h7, somehow something tells me that it's too passive. Although, that is a legitimate move, actually. That is a legitimate move. Knight d4 is also a desirable move to make, because it's checkmate threat in 1, but unfortunately my rook is just hanging with check. I cannot afford that. Okay, let me go for my initial plan. Queen d4. That feels like the most active move here. What I like is after knight f6, I'm at least getting to exchange his most active piece. This knight on d5, of course, it's creating a lot of pressure. He actually just exchanges. Well, that didn't feel scary for me, because whenever the queens are off the board, I'm immediately not scared of any checkmating attacks. Back to the question my opponent asked me in the chat. Yes, he might get some material back, but at least I'm not getting checkmate. So, okay, I have very limited time now. I have knight c2, winning the rook. He takes that rook. I take the pawn on g4. He takes this rook. That is a crazy line, but that is an entire rook, so I want to take it. Because maybe I have still time to somehow save my rook over here. Let's say play king f8. And then, yes, he's going to have very, very strong pawns, and I'm going to have a hard time trying to save it, but at least I'm a rook up. I mean, that advantage, he actually goes for this rook. I'm surprised because if he goes here, the knight is very, very bad there, and I still have my active rook here, because that rook was passive and this one is active. Although he still can take it, and his bishops are amazingly strong. I'm sorry, guys, that I missed a little bit of recording there, because there is a limit on my camera. Meanwhile, my opponent is attacking here. He took that rook on a8, he's attacking my rook on h7, and I just realized that I probably made the wrong choice with my rook move. And I also have just a little bit more than 1 minute on the clock. Okay, if I just take it here, that's going to be absolutely equal. I can also just play d5, he take there, I play bishop g4. Yeah, I like it. Okay. Because I'm just too scared with those pawns there. If he takes an h5, that's going to be crazy. And here, I want to play bishop g4 check, and then I want to take the pawn on c4, and at least I'm not risking to lose. Also, I have this very powerful passer, and yeah, that feels like a reasonable way to play. The alternative was to play f5, and then what a crazy game! So crazy that I even forget to check my camera there. But okay, now I'm taking here. If he goes somewhere there, I have a check, and then I can take here. If he goes away, I can just take there, and my knight is not really in danger of being lost because I always have knight b3. What I don't like is that he's gonna have knight b6, and that move is gonna save his knight. Okay, I'm thinking about bishop c5, whether that's a move, because no, I will never be able to save that, to win that knight, because he's gonna have bishop e5, knight c7, all of those ideas. Okay, so how do we proceed from here? Knight b6? Maybe I want to play bishop e6, provoking him for the move f5. Maybe I don't, because that pawn actually is very dangerous. Yeah, maybe I don't want to do that. And king e1 is also a very good move, because the king is closer to this pawn, stopping it. So knight b6 is really annoying, because I don't see any way to save the pawn. Bishop e6 doesn't work. My opponent actually offers me a draw, but we didn't start this game to make a draw. Either I'm gonna win or I'm gonna lose. I never accept any draw offers. Wow, such an intense game. So what do I do after knight b6? I actually can't figure it out. h4, he's gonna take. h3, he's gonna play bishop e4, and this bishop is controlling everything. So maybe I do need to play bishop f3. Then he takes it, I play h4. He plays knight e5, I go back to d5. I control this diagonal as well as support my pawn. And hopefully at some point my knight will be able to get back into the game, which is not simple by any means. But I mean, both of our knights are there. That is absolutely crazy position. Knight b6, I guess I'm gonna play bishop f3, because this diagonal is such an important one to control. I mean, I don't want to lose this opportunity, because the good thing for me, he doesn't have bishop e4 and knight b6 at the same time. If he would be able to do that, he would be much better. But if he plays bishop e4 now, at least I get to play b5, I have an extra pawn here and a very solid pawn structure. And if he plays knight b6, then I get to play bishop f3 and at least control this long diagonal. Okay, so my opponent's also getting a little bit low on time, although he still has twice as much as I do. That, of course, will be a huge factor. And I really have to be careful with that pawn. But what I like is, as long as my bishop is here, f5 is never possible, because, hey, he gives me a check. How do I deal with it? I guess I go to e8, because otherwise he's gonna have... Okay, he gives me a check. Now I can go here. Or maybe I should have gone there. I didn't want to make my king that passive, but I don't understand his point, because here I'm gonna have the move b5 and I'm gonna defend my pawn. Yeah, he's not really worried about the pawn, probably. Okay, I guess he wants to play knight to e3, right? But I have the move knight to b3 for now, just activating my knights with the tempo. I like it a lot. Yeah, now I realize he has knight b6 check, but hopefully that's not going to be that dangerous. At least now, if he does that, then in the end of the day, I'm going to get a pair of bishops. And in such an open position, I'm pretty sure a pair of bishops would make a huge, huge difference. I just noticed that I have a 10 seconds increment, so I'm not that in a hurry to make my moves, because without the increment, it's very difficult sometimes. You're just too low on time physically, you have no opportunity to make those moves. But with 10 seconds increment, I actually have decent chance to maintain the balance in this position. He goes for it, okay. Okay, so what do? I really want to play the move king to e6 to activate my king, but I don't have any... Wait, f5 is not a move, right? I have bishop takes f5. So if he takes, I'm gonna take it there. And yeah, his knight is somehow very passive. Alternative is king c6, but I don't like that he's gonna have bishop e6, bishop e4 check. So let me play king e6. Because the king is closer to the center, closer to the actions. Yeah, now he can actually just play bishop c3. And then how do I defend the pawn? I guess I don't. But I do have bishop f5 idea though. While this knight is kind of far away, I have bishop f5, basically threatening to exchange. And then if he exchanges, then the pawn is going to be hanging and I'm going to control this diagonal. It doesn't have any checks, right? So I'm allowed to do that because I still don't want him to play bishop f4 and control that long diagonal. If he exchanges, my king becomes even more dangerous, even more active, and that's definitely good. The more pieces we exchange, the more important that is that I have this distant passer. Distant passer is a huge, huge advantage in the endgame. Always would like to use it. Okay, he actually goes for it. I don't think it's good for him. I honestly don't think that's good for him. Because dark square's bishop is not the right piece to stop the pawn. The knight is not the right piece to stop the pawn. Okay, can I actually save the pawn somehow? I like the move c3 here, because I'm kind of threatening c2, so he absolutely has to take it. If he takes with the pawn, then I'm getting that pawn, and I'm getting another distant passer. If he takes with the bishop, then wait, I'm just noticing he has knight d5 at the end of the day with a fork. That is very unfortunate. Do I have any intermezzo move? Bishop takes, I have bishop d6. That seems to work. I attack this guy twice. Knight d5, I still take it. Yeah, let me go for c3. Because I lose this pawn anyway, I don't want to play knight d5 because it feels way too passive. So I'm gonna go for some tricks. You know, that is what high-rated players are doing to... Wait a second, I actually had bishop takes g5. That was the simplest move, and I was just winning immediately. Actually, can still do it now. He didn't take with the bishop. So bishop takes, he doesn't have any checks. I attack this guy. If he takes, I take with the king. And I'm gonna just go back and take that pawn. Then I have two passers. He's never gonna survive. And otherwise, I'm threatening to take here. He does have knight d5 though. And then he's protecting that. Take it. Yeah, okay, let me just take it. Because even if he does have knight d5, I'm still winning a pawn here. And I'm gonna be a pawn up. But my question is whether after knight d5 I can take it on f4, because knight takes, I have king takes, and then it's a knight endgame with an extra pawn that should be winning, and if bishop takes I have king f4, forking both pieces there, and I don't see any way for him to save both of the pieces. Yeah, that seems to work actually. Alternatively, after knight d5 I can just play king e4 immediately, because if he takes, I can still take one of the pieces, and no matter which one I take, I guess I'm winning. And he doesn't have any checks except for knight f6, which is not good enough. Yeah, so knight d5, I just play king f4. Okay, so I'm ready for that. I guess it's just cleaner than taken, because if I don't need to sacrifice the piece just yet, why should I go for it? And the knight on b3, even though it seems passive, but I like that there is absolutely no way for him to attack this knight so far. That is why all of my combinations work here. And of course, I'm relying on the fact that in the end of the day, no matter what happens, I'm gonna have this passer there. Yeah, c4 is something I completely missed. That is why it was great that I didn't play that. I do have a check. Let me give a check. Although the bishop wasn't really hanging, but I don't want to have my pieces hanging for a lot of time. Yeah, here I have another check. And I win a pawn and an attack. Yeah, king f1 basically was not acceptable for him. Now I'm creating another double thread, and I have another distant passer potentially. That is just too much for him to handle. Yeah, now I can just take. Because I'm gonna have a bishop against the knight. The bishop is always stronger than there are pawns on both sides of the board, because the bishop can support both of them. And the bishop is especially stronger when you have 3 extra pawns. Yeah, that's why my opponent resigns here. I hope you enjoyed this game. That was just a crazy, crazy game. hit the like button if you want to be my next opponent. That's all you need to do. Hit the like button and write in the comments why you want to be my next opponent. What is your goal in chess or in general? Maybe you can share with me your story. It would be very interesting for me to know. Meanwhile, I want to show you this video where I played absolutely fantastic game, the most instructive I have ever played on this channel. Believe me, if you are gonna watch it, you're gonna never play chess the same way afterwards, because you're gonna learn so much in the process.